Howdy and thank you. It's that time again for another review of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 2, Episode 9. If you haven't already, you can go on YouTube, Apple, Hulu, see the very first episode of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. If you haven't seen it, do it. It was the best opener of all, in my humble opinion, of all the housewives, of all the cities. And this episode 9 starts to tie the first episode together. So if you haven't seen it, see it. So I want to start today with Heather. We meet Heather and her daughter Ashley, together with her niece and her niece's husband. And they're at a restaurant. And Heather's sort of been under the wire this season. Not completely missing, but not in the center of all the controversy, but she has pieces of it. She always gets a little piece. But I find her fascinating because through Heather we learn a lot about the Mormon church. We don't know that much about the Mormon church. In fact, most people think the LDS is a cult. But we are in the we are at the headquarters. We're at the mothership in Salt Lake City, where it's headquartered. So through Heather and sometimes through Whitney, they get to pull back the curtain, and we get to see things about the church that we would not normally see. And I find that fascinating. And during this lunch, we learned that her niece, who was once like Heather, a devout Mormon, has found cracks, as we all do in religion. We find cracks and hypocrisies and things that make us question if we want to belong to this organization or even in this religion. There isn't anger from Whitney or Heather. The preacher's a bastard, the church is a scam. None of that. We just see layers of the church. And while some people have chosen to leave the church, they're not leaving the church because of that's not necessarily true in the case of Whitney, but they're not very angry. So we learn a lot here. I want to move on. Salt Lake City this year, if there's anything, I think this is a year of revenge. You didn't go with my friend, you didn't invite me to this, so I'm not going to invite you to that. And I'm going to talk about your kinfolk, and I'm going to talk about you, and I'm going to put you in a bad light. Nobody's going to be your friend, and that's just the way it is, okay? All right? And I hate you, and I want you to die. That's pretty much how it comes, pretty much what it is this season, and it's good. So, tonight it's Mary's time. Mary Crosby, the first lady of the Pentecostal church there in Salt Lake City. And she's having an event at an Italian cookery where they'll learn a few dishes and eat a meal. Mary's invited all the women except for Jenny, the newbie, the rookie. Because Jenny had the nerve to say fuck in front of the pastor. And the pastor didn't like that. And Jenny said, listen, I'm grown, you don't tell me what to do. So Jenny is not invited. She's invited the other women to join. She's in the Facebook, in the text, she's given them outfits they should wear to the Italian restaurant or cooking. And everybody responds except Whitney. She sends Whitney FaceTime, she sends him texts, and there's no response, according to Mary. Whitney says she didn't respond, but she's busy. She's carpooling this week. She's taking people to school, she's taking coffee. It's her turn to take people to soccer practice. She's busy. So at one point, Mary is so pissed that she changes up what Whitney's supposed to wear. In fact, she wanted Whitney to wear some hot pants and some G-strings, kind of look like Salt Lake's finest hooker. But Whitney went, oh, no, baby, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that at all. You done lost your mind. So she shows up at the restaurant wearing JCPenney's finest, including with matching jewelry and matching purses. Well, this sets Mary on fire. Mary wants her blood to fly. First of all, you didn't respond to my text, my FaceTime, and you're not wearing what you're supposed to wear. I am done with you. So the two go back and forth, back and forth. Meanwhile, over in the cheap seats, Jen is a little hot herself. She's hot at Whitney, but who she's mostly mad is Lisa, because Lisa had an event. There was a big charity event, and she and Lisa are tight. They're the tightest of the group. Didn't invite her. In fact, and she's mad at Whitney because Lisa told Whitney that, listen, you know that hairdresser, the one that caused you to go to therapy? Not the hairdresser, but the dressmaker? Well, Whitney gave him free items. What kind of friend is she? Now, initially, Jen didn't think much about it, but Lisa kept pushing. I'm your friend, that ain't your friend. So now she's singing about it because this dressmaker caused her all kind of public humiliation to the point that she had to get a therapist. Everybody heard what happened because it was taped, and the tape was released with Jen cussing out. So she's not a fan of anybody who's a fan of this dressmaker. Well, Whitney's over here. Says Whitney, go wait, no, baby, that's not the way it went down. The man asked me for stuff free. I told him no. He did get stuff, but he paid for it. Well, Heather wanted to be part of this. Well, why did you do that, Lisa? Lisa goes, wait, but you know, I don't know why. My son was actually in charge of the guest list. You know, I don't have to say what they invited. Lisa needs better scenarios because a preschooler can say, Mommy, I see that. That was stupid. That didn't happen. I am in your face. Can I have a cookie? Nobody's believing this. And the pile-on begins. But this time, Lisa doesn't cry like she normally does. Leave me alone. Why is everybody persecuting me? Why is everything I say is measured? I don't understand. None of that happened. Meredith had her back this time saying, look, people have parties. People invite people to some parties, don't invite people to others. You know, it's not a big thing. So it's squashed for now. But meanwhile, Mary is still bubbling. She wants Whitney to pay. She insults Whitney, calls her a little girl. Whitney's looking at her like, okay, Mary, it's not that serious, but apparently it is to Mary, because Mary at one point says, you know, listen, we're not friends. Well, this hurts Whitney to the core, because Whitney stood by Mary when no one else did. Went to her church, brought her family. Brought her family, her father, everybody. And for Mary to say this really hurts her to the core. And she is inconsolable. And at one point, Mary says, don't you have to go? Don't you have a car? I need you to go. I need you to leave my place. Meredith looks at Whitney, who's inconsolable, and she intercepts her before she leaves, and the two sit down and they talk about Mary. Meredith has some issues that she learned about Mary's church last week. She likes Meredith. Meredith likes Mary, and her kids like Mary. But she heard some things that concerned her, and if anybody knows anything, is Whitney. And what we learned is that Whitney, Mary's grandmother, the first lady of the Pentecostal church, considered herself God, not God-like, but God. And supposedly there were images of her next to Jesus. And with the church going to Mary, Mary too, if we to believe what we've heard, believes that she is a godlike a godlike figure. And there are a lot of noise and coming from her church about, is it a cult? But one thing that Whitney says is you don't want to get her angry. And this is one of the things I don't quite understand about Whitney. Whitney is a smart girl. She can read a bitch. She's the best one on it. She's the youngest one, I think, at 34, 36. She's by far the youngest housewife. She's smart. But why does she want to befriend someone like Mary and Lisa who talk smack about them? You know, we learn that Whitney has kept a long thing of texts that Mary has called her and insulted her regularly. So my question is, with all the housewives that are there, Heather and Jenny and the other ones, why would you want to be with someone that treats you like that? Maybe it's age, I don't know. I want to know what you think. Why does she want to befriend or be in the company of someone like her? I'm curious what you think. Meanwhile, we got to get planning now. Meredith has rented a big 7-room house up in the hills of Vail, Colorado. And all the women are invited, including Jenny. They're going to go by bus. Now, Vail is not a short distance. It is like 6 hours. So 6 of these women are going to be on the bus together for 6 hours. And they get a call from Mary, and Mary says, you know what, I've got a nasty headache, and she's going to take a private jet and would meet them later. Meredith's already there at the house waiting for them, getting everything together. So we have Whitney, Jen, Jenny, Heather, and Lisa. And the producers are putting up the cameras for the bus. And Jen is one of the last people to get on, Jen Shaw. And she's on the telephone and she's talking. And everybody's excited about the trip. Suddenly Jen Shaw's she looks over at Whitney and says, disconnect my mic. And so Whitney does, thinking nothing about it, and Jen steps off the bus and has a conversation. She comes back on the bus saying that she can't go right now. She's got to go to the hospital. Her husband is bleeding internally, and she's got to leave. And the women are concerned, naturally. And some of the women get together and say, well, maybe we should cancel this trip. You know, this is serious. Her husband is bleeding internally. And Jen gets into an Ford 150 pickup and leaves. Meanwhile, the women are having this discussion about what's going on. What should we do? What should we do? They're so engrossed in, they don't notice the police. There are police surrounding the bus. And at one point, the producers talked to one of the police, said, we're looking for Jen Shaw. Is she here? And all of a sudden, the ladies notice what's going on. Like, what's going on? What's going on? Whitney goes, well, wait. This must be a prank. But Lisa goes, I ain't sure this is a prank. I'm not sure what's going on. And they hear from producers that, like, the police is looking to arrest Jen Shaw. Everybody's sick. Everybody's nervous. Like, what's going on? What's going on? Lisa's like, I'm just sick. I want to vomit. She said it so much she got on my last nerve. I said to myself, don't your coat have pockets? Vomit in there. So next week we get to see where this ends. How did Jen find out? Who tipped her off? What are your thoughts? Meanwhile, thank you for watching. This is the Rodfather 916, wishing you love, joy, and happiness If you haven't subscribed, hit that button. Talk to you later. Bye.